Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wired for Wonder, the podcast where we help leaders think about the future of work and integrating technology and humanity into their future paths. I'm excited to have with me today John Reites, who is the CEO of Thread. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, just so the audience, knows a little bit about you, you want to give us just a quick background about kind of who you are and what role you play in this world.
Yeah, I've only spent my whole career in life sciences and clinical research. So, how to run clinical trials around the world. So, actually, if someone wants me to work in some other industry, I'm going to fail. Like, that's what I know is clinical research is what I know. And I've had an amazing career being able to partner with amazing people to think about solving real problems about how do we take clinical research and give it to people, regardless of who they are, where they live, or what they can afford. So, our ability to take clinical research and put it in people's homes and still do it with the kind of validation and throughput that's needed with technology has been really important to the career. So yeah, I co-founded with some great friends a company called threadresearch.com. You can learn more about us there, and you can look me up on LinkedIn to see sort of where that career is. But lots to talk about, lots happening in tech and continues to happen in tech in life sciences.
That is awesome. And at DeepHumanX, right, when we talk about the X factor, we talk about the fact that each one of us has our own individual X factor, right? The thing that really motivates us, our passion, the things that drives us. What would you say is your driving X in your career and work or
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, I there's a lot of X's for me. There's like an X with a little S after it because I do think there's a lot of things that motivate me. And as an entrepreneur, you know this, like you're fighting really hard every day to stay motivated because your job is to be more motivated than your team is so they can smell it on you and move forward. And so, how do I get up at 5:30 every morning and get working? It really comes from a core sort of value that I learned. I spent of my career, 20 plus years in life sciences, I spent the first half of it building and managing a store called Clinical Trials.
Okay.
And then at the halfway point, I have a brother who has a rare disease. I got an opportunity to be in a clinical trial myself, to be the patient. And
Mm.
I went, yes. And because I could, tell them everything was wrong with their clinical trial, because I had built them, right? That was the store that I helped to build and manage. And then when I got to go shop in the store that I spent the whole first half of my career building, I realized that I hated the end caps and I hated the experience and I hated how I felt going through it. And it
Mm.
completely changed my perspective to say, hey, listen, if I'm going to do this with my career, if I'm going to invest my time, my money, my family, everything into clinical research, I'm going to do a better job of helping to build the experience that I would want to participate in again. And so I'll just be really clear. We haven't arrived yet, but back then, nobody was doing telehealth visits in their home, capturing high throughput validated endpoints like they are today. And so we've been on a mission to really do that. But that motivation's still there, right? This ability to say, this way to help people around the world and to change how healthcare is done by inventing and developing new drugs and medical devices is a core to what my kids and my grandkids are actually going to experience. So it's really actually motivating because our career, and if you're in life sciences, you sort of have this natural like wonder and ability and curiosity to fix what's happening because you know the value of it is bringing medicines and treatments to save people's lives and help them live longer.
All right, so you're bringing up right the human experience, which is, I mean, all of us as people, we know if it's a good experience or not. We may not be able to tell you why, but individually, we know that. What are some big shifts that you're seeing? Like AI, right, is bringing so much change to the marketplace, which is awesome. I think it can be really great for humanity. What are some things that you're seeing that is shifting the human experience as to what was into what could be?
It's a big question, Lori. So I think you're right. Like we diving into it, I think there's a few angles that I'm seeing personally. So one is in a lot of the work we did, we had this early opportunity. We're a beta partner for as a life sciences company for OpenAI. They were much smaller. They weren't as sort of front page news as they were today. And a team of people I have that work with me every day are awesome and experts at actually deploying AI in a very practical way. So everything we talk about in Thread is around practical AI because it's all about the use case and can AI be a better problem solver than the way we solve the problem today? And so what I would tell you is like when I look at sort of what's happening and what's evolved in that experience, I actually think the companies that are using sort of this inside out approach, the starting sort of why I do it moving out, are seeing really practical applications of it and actually not making the news,
Mhm.
right? Because it's not the cool, flashy, Terminator level stuff that we kind of are looking to read when we turn on LinkedIn. And so I do think there's sort of this underpinning of practical AI that's really happening in the world that people are just now figuring out. But what I would say is, for me, it's workflow, right? So like personally, you know, I get in to do my job. I go to think about, hey, today I need to write something for my team or write a post for LinkedIn or script out my next podcast. Before I would go, here's my ideas. I would go through my process. Now I go, Claude, go to my writer GPT. That sounds pretty close to me so far. I've invested a couple years in it.
Yeah.
And I draft. And then I go, what about this? Have I thought about this? And this engagement with something that's not human is the
Mhm.
difference in sort of that experience. And again, people like it, people hate it. Most people don't actually know what it is because they're lying because they haven't actually used it or paid $20 to try a better version. So I
I
think we're kind of
know.
I think we're kind of in that mix where the experience is about how you make it. The tools are there, and the tools and the apps being built are being built by the initial users, not the aggregate users that we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, that's interesting because that's a lot of what we're seeing. So I love that you use the word practical. We're all about building practical AI ready cultures, meaning it's not about the shiny new object. It's not about the
Yeah.
tech. It's like we have this opportunity to, well, not even we as leaders, we kind of have to be asking the question now, not what can we build, but what do we want to build? Because you don't have to worry about how the technology works anymore. The tools, I mean, they're there today. But what is different is that, right, you can go in at whatever context you're at and just start asking questions and get, if you hate writing like me, you can have it, have your chatbot help you to just be more concise, to be, to help you with, I can see this pattern, this pattern, and this pattern, let's bring it together. And in the same notion, you actually then, what I found is you really do get that, being AI augmented or AI enhanced, I should say,
Mhm.
AI augmented really is, allows me to think much different and much deeper about the why, right? About my why. Like, ooh, let me look at things from different angles that it would take me, might take 10 meetings to get you up to the exact same speed to actually ask the question. So I see this huge opportunity for leaders, right, to start looking at themselves and to look at their companies and say, hey, what is it that we as an organization want to do? If we got all of our productivity and efficiency tasks taken care of quickly, now what's going to be left on your list? Right? Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I think for me, if you were to take that and say, how does a leader think about using AI tools? I think real leaders don't think about the fact that they have to use AI tools to be believable as a leader in this environment we're in right now. Because if you went and said, I don't use any AI tools, they're like, next, let's go find the replacement for this guy, right?
Totally.
But I do think that the leaders that I've seen be successful, and I think the ones that are really trying to blaze a trail right now in a very safe and measured way for their companies, start again with, hey, this thing we do every day is this, and it has 32 steps. One things we do is we say, here's the 32 steps. Can I take step 2, 13, 27, and 14, and can we automate those with AI? And the team
Well,
says, oh, hey, that's great. Let's dig into that. And then you go, great. What about the next step? And so this ability to solve the problem, AI is just the tool. For
yes.
me, is such the unlock. And early on, I got the bug too. I was like, oh my gosh, we need to use AI. And I'm like, what are we talking about? We use this as a tool every day. Think about it
Yeah.
like a tool. So I think leaders that think about like a tool win. Is that kind of what you're seeing though, or is there some attribute to it that's different?
No, yeah, absolutely. That there's a mindset shift that's needed. One is that it's a tool, it's not a part of your tech stack that is far off.
Yeah.
Like integrate it with, I mean, literally we're training people all the time and we're getting teams to use it right within actual work problems that are going on. And the easiest way to start is like solve a problem that is painful for you as an individual or for your customers, right? Like look at that journey map you probably did and actually
Yeah.
right now
That's
be
right.
like, let's actually look at resolving this from a different perspective, maybe more of a macro perspective, but something where it's not as predictable as
Yeah.
A plus B equals this outcome because we're in a changing world. And if you do look at AI as a tool, I think leaders, what I'm seeing is leaders then, right, have this ability to be like, oh, wait a minute, we can have a lot more, we can open up a lot more possibilities if I'm not hooked on necessarily how we've done it in the past or what we've done. And instead, I tie my thinking to the outcomes and ask the tools or use the tools to say, get me to this outcome faster.
Yeah. I would also say, like, for me, um, talking to a leader, he's an entrepreneur, he's a friend of mine, owns another company, and he called me, and but it was probably like you do. You have this network of people you can complain to and sort of say, hey, are you seeing this? What are you doing? And his complaint was, John, like, I know that AI can make my developers 20% more efficient. Why are we less efficient this quarter? And I said, great question. I said, what do your developers do with AI?
Yeah.
He goes, well, for coding. I went, okay, dude, listen, time out. Good leaders aren't experts in the things that they hire their teams to do, but they know what their teams are doing. And the better and more equipped they are about that thing, the better they can help and support. So, like, I'm not a coder anymore. I'm a terrible developer. And trust me, my vibe coding skills are horrific right now. And I don't know why everybody's coding a great app. I tried and I know what to do. And I feel like my coding skills have to come back. But what I would say is, when I'm talking to the tech team and I say, hey, how's this LLM working? And why did you give that change in 3.5 for Claude? They go, hey, great question, John, because you're not getting this. And I go, okay, great. And then I can understand them and say, how do we push efficiency there? And they say, oh, you do it like this. And so this ability to lead, I want to be really careful with AI. I actually starts with us being educated about AI enough to not
Right.
make a bunch of assumptions like that it's just making people brilliant overnight. It's a tool, and we as leaders need to understand the tool as much as our teams do. And trust me, I'm no expert. I'm working really hard to do that and be as fast as I can. So my team actually sees me as a part of the team, not the guy who's swooping in asking why AI isn't solving all my problems.
I mean, that's an interesting perspective too, right? Like we're seeing the leadership hierarchy change. Whereas you might be the CEO, but as you're solving problems, it is about more of the collective, collaborative efforts to understand, okay, where are they at and how do you use the tools to get to where you need to go
Yeah.
and making that connection. I feel like we've been talking about it, whether it's customer experience, whether it's human centered design, right, in software creation for years. But there is this demand now for leaders, if you're not using AI, start using, just go to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or any of the major LLMs and start using it. But because you can quickly tell if people are understanding what the possibility of the tools is versus how to use it, so to speak. It's like it's a change in leadership that's happening. And for me, I think I often see it as a human shift too, right?
Hmm.
As leaders, right, there's this requirement that you start asking actually bigger questions and different questions, right? Before having answers on your fingertips, right, like that we can get today, you could say, hey, I want this and give me an updated report on activity. And now the question has to be, you have to start looking at asking bigger questions. In life sciences, right, since this is your expertise, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in the marketplace today that maybe you feel like you're ahead of competitors, or you feel like this is a common problem that people are having? What are some challenges that you're seeing from a leadership perspective?
Yeah. So the trick about life sciences and let me talk specific about clinical research or clinical trials, which is where I spend most of my time. When you think about clinical research, what are we doing? We put experimental medications and medical devices into people's bodies and track how that responds, sometimes on its own, a lot of times compared to a sugar pill, to a placebo. And so when
Yep,
you
and
think
control.
about conducting clinical trials and you think about the root of what we're doing that so that we have high throughput, high quality science. So that when a drug comes to market, the reason it takes so long and costs so much, no matter what your political affiliation is, what you think about the process, the science of conducting clinical trials is complex. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of data and a lot of time to get right, so that when a product gets on the market, and again, people are using products we develop every single day, because they've gone through that thorough testing. So when you think about that, a lot of the challenges we have in the market is actually that making change, especially when you're trying to do tech or AI, right? In this fast-paced world where like new LLM came out yesterday and it already jumped up 3 steps. In my world, that's not how the world works. I would
Hmm.
tell you speed is not actually what helps companies and people win in life sciences. What helps people win is this consistent, persistent method of high quality, but changing the experience enough where the quality doesn't change. So, one of the things that we spent a lot of time doing was not just talking about it, but in more than 60 countries and over 100 languages, could I use a mobile phone to a patient in Africa or France or China, and could I help them do a clinic visit in their home because they couldn't move because they had a debilitating disease?
Mm.
Okay. And so our work has always been about taking this high quality, high throughput science and making it actually available for anyone, anywhere. That's been part of our mission. It's part of our stated strategy for 9 years, hasn't changed, right? Is how do we help everyone everywhere participate in clinical research? And if you do that, which is a really big ask, and we're not there, we're working on it and we're winning
Yeah.
in some areas and stuff, places to go. But the reality is it's that change agent that moves things. So again, keeping high throughput, high quality, using advanced technology to actually implementing it and doing it in a way that meets regulatory compliance and the quality parameters we have, which are very, very high, is really important. And so again, in my world and what we're doing, the challenges are all the same. How do you help people recruit into clinical trials? How do you help them be aware they actually exist? Right?
Right.
How do you help them stay into the clinical trials? How do you make sure that they have flexibility in this ability to go into a clinic, stay at home, have a nurse come to their home, do a visit in their car? And our ability to do that in one platform, one technology across the board has been really hard to do. It's taken us 9 years to get to the point where we are at the top right hand quadrant of Gartner and Everest and IDC, but it took a long time to get there. And
Yeah.
to keep winning means that you have to keep investing and keep listening to users. So we're listening to patients and caregivers and research centers every day where they will tell us, John, we need this or this sucks. Please change it. Right. And our ability to listen to that, be humble to say, we can improve this, we can build that feature functionality is really where we're at in life sciences, knowing that it takes time and we have to
Yeah.
be consistent in delivering high quality.
Well, and I love that. I mean, I feel like you're in a like a field where you get to actually get that altruistic
It's true.
real sense of like I am making a difference for people, right? The people that are probably coming to the trials are often, right, have some debilitating disease or some way that their life has been impaired because of illness, right? And so I think that that's um I don't know. I just think it's really fun that you get to do that and
It's
you get that
it's
altruistic side that most
Yeah,
people don't get in
we
business.
do. It's a big responsibility. We don't take it lightly, and our job is to, biopharmaceutical companies and CROs like research organizations, they need us to be an extension of them, right? So they're
Yeah.
the ones funding their research. They're the ones spending billions of dollars and taking risk to do the right thing, right? But our job is to come in to part of that team and help them deliver what's typically the really complex part, which is how do you implement technology? And remember, in clinical research, when you're doing research with people, a lot of people that are on some of these medications or have some of the diseases are older, not as technology equipped, may live in countries where they have a flip phone, right? So the kind of tech. So when we in the U.S. or like where I live in the U.S., I think about like the challenges I would have with mobile or Wi-Fi or whatever. Multiply that times 100 different nuances when you get into the real world of more than 60 countries. And so I actually think that's kind of the fascinating part is our ability to really have to think about being a service to others, but thinking about the UI and UX globally is really
Mhm.
tricky. And we've learned a lot, and we continue to get better at it. But I would say that, yeah, it's fun, but it's a big responsibility because it's a big problem to solve.
So as you were talking, I'm kind of hearing some focus on, right, that human centricity is really helping you to ensure the quality of the trials and ensure the experience of the humans are um stay at the forefront of your business. What would you recommend to leaders who maybe haven't taken a human-centered approach yet or see AI as a tech change and not as a human change?
Yeah, maybe two. Maybe I'd break it up in two ways. One is for people who want to think about human-centered design, and you would love this because this is who you are and what you think about. I have teams that are literally have titles human-centered design. Why? Because it's really important. And everybody
Mhm.
who's not doing it or doesn't have some aspect of their business thinking about it, you're losing already and you don't know it. So I'm just going to say it flat out: entrepreneur to entrepreneur, CEO to CEO. Shame on you. You need to fix that. And the reality though is human-centered design. It's an approach, right? It has a lot of process. People come up with their own sort of steps to take, but it just starts with just getting in front of users and asking them. And I think a lot of people just don't actually know what their users like and don't like. And so if you don't know what to do, just start there. I'm always shocked at how many people, if I say, well, what do the patients think about your app? They're like, I have no idea. I'm like, how in the world are you giving an app to people and you've never asked them what they think? That,
Right, about a highly personal
right?
situation.
But Lord, every day. So again, I don't. That's not to disorient anybody. That's not to talk down to anybody at all. It's just to say that, hey, if you're at this point, it's never too late to start, right? And that's what human design really is about. That's where it starts, is understanding and hearing directly from the users that matter. Now, the second part, though, on the AI side, is really complicated, right? And I do think that uh, my premise here has been not to look at AI, as some leaders I know come in, they say, I'm going to replace people, or I need to be 25% more efficient, which just means I want to have 25% less people. Like, they all sort of take these approaches. For me, it's like what you said. It's a tool, right? It's the how you equip people. And I would say some roles have the ability to use 75% of use cases that AI has to offer, and some only have 10 right now. And that's just the way the market is. And so I think the ability to figure out, not just like everybody uses AI and I get 25% efficiency, that's a really short-sighted way to think about it, in my opinion. I think it's actually about saying, okay, I have four components to my business. I have product, I have operations, I have sales, whatever those are, and saying this group needs these tools to equip them 10%, and that would be great. These groups can actually do 50% because they're doing a lot of writing, so let's get them the help they need. And I think when you sort
Yeah.
of dissect the AI piece, it's not a human problem. It's actually a more of a product or more of a department focus. That is where I think people can win with it.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that because I think that right, we are in the midst of change, and anyone who says they're like they know what's coming in 5 to 10 years is bonkers. First of all, right? Like we are in a time of change, and for us at DeepHumanX, we anchor in that, like, hey, your people have a lot of intellectual capital, and the question is through your standardized processes and
Yes.
workflows, which everyone needs and are really key and critical in right helping companies thrive, but are you actually taking advantage of the talents and the people and the superpowers that they have? And AI gives you all of a sudden this ability to, yes, we all want efficiency, we all want to make money, no question about that. That's table stakes for having any business,
That's
right? You
right.
got to have money coming in,
It's true.
some money going out, ideally more coming in, right? But like, how do we get it so that organizations and leaders can understand that, hey, you might have the next innovative person in your operations department, right? Maybe it's someone who handles customer service calls, who's actually um, got a brilliant idea. Like, that's kind of, for me, the exciting part of when you start working with it as a tool for your teams to solve actual day-to-day problems that you're having, like even easing the pain. All of a sudden you find out that you've had somebody who's been doing this role in this job that's very defined, yet they have this whole other side of them that has never been tapped.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of cool about using AI for the efficiency. It's not just the efficiency, it's like you're freeing up mind space to get access to things that you may not have known about your employee before.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if you see the same thing. I don't think people say like, oh, people are scared of AI. I'm like, no, I'm scared of AI. But it's for a very different reason than the business case use case I'm trying to use, right? And so I'm
Right.
not scared of it in a business context. Why? Because I know the parameters and the guardrails and what I'm going to not let people copy and paste into their LLM, right? So let's like start there, right? So I think when people think about, or leaders think about, putting together the right work instruction, the right rollout plan, the adoption models, what you talked about, which is not easy to do. It's not just crank out an SOP and you're done. But when they think about what you've just laid out, it's pretty critical. And actually, I would tell you as a leader, if you're not starting with that, you're already going to fail. Why? Because the first time someone puts something they're not IP into ChatGPT and hits submit, you're going to know.
Yeah.
and I think, I think that's the piece. But what I would say is you're right. When you give it to individuals, and one of the things that we did in our company is we sort of said, hey, here's our broader based pilot. And then we went to some individuals and said, hey, you're doing some really interesting things. Can we give you a separate pilot? We're going to give you the highest sort of expensed solution here. And I'll be careful what I say just to not give away what solutions we're using, but it's any AI
Yeah.
tool. And we're like, hey, here's the use cases that you gave us. Can you go test these? And then you report back what you like, don't like, and what we can scale. And Lord, from my perspective, like one, we knew enough to ask them the questions, so they respected and trusted us. But second is they were like, great, get out of my way and let me do this. I'm the expert in my business. And so they came back to us with awesome ideas. Why? Because we helped them, we understood the request, and then we got out of the way and let our team do the work. And that ownership for me and for the team is really important. And yeah, we're still in that process, but it's been pretty fun actually to see the results so far.
Well, so that leads to, right, as a leader, you're managing those people differently now. Now you're saying, hey, I want you to take this and think differently and create things for me because you know your business, that I'm not telling you a task to do, right? And hopefully no leader is really just giving a list of tasks to do. Although it does happen, right? But it feels like that is for you is a change in how you might have, 5 people who are doing the same job, but this one person is now in this pilot. So they're hyper accelerating, whereas then you have 4 other people who weren't. So all of a sudden, as a leader, you have this management issue of, hey, I've got to manage this person and keep them going. And at the same time, right, not discourage these other people or not recognize where these other 4 people are, it's so that, and then bring them along the journey. What kind of challenges has that, or has it brought any challenges for you as far as leadership and management style?
I'm sure somebody got offended that they weren't picked,
Mm-hmm.
and that's life. Fair is where you go to buy cotton candy.
I have not heard that. I like
Right.
that.
So that's my father-in-law for you. So here's what I would say. I would say that I think for the most part, our teams, again, just in our experience, they haven't been petty about that. Actually, the funny thing we've seen we've had some departments or sort of use cases where it's like 1 to 2 people and they're really close, but we've had others where there's a group of them and somebody's running. And we said, hey, you don't have to hold this back. We went on a thread, our forum, which is like our monthly every all hands call. And it said, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's the pilot. Sue is running this pilot. Why? Because she's going to test this out. She may come to you and ask for ideas and to try something out with her. So actually, I would tell you, I try to use it as the inverse, which is like, hey, Sue, you own a P&L. The P&L is called ChatGPT Teams for this use
Mm-hmm.
case. Go get people's feedback. And so the cool thing is a lot of our teams have taken that, met with 3 to 4 people and said, hey, check this out what I'm doing. What do you guys think about it? So what have we actually done? We've built tighter teams around problem solving a smaller thing, which is easier to focus on than go solve all the problems that you have in a business. And so
Right.
I guess, yes, it could be a negative. We just don't let that happen, right? The reality is you can focus on that or you can focus on the positive. And again, when we gave the pilot to people that were equipped to do it or wanted a leadership opportunity to try something, it was a great
Yeah.
opportunity. It's like giving somebody an opportunity to go speak at your forum or town hall. It's very similar to that.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
treat it
Yeah.
like that. And I think we got good results. But if you do this every day. So if you're going to say, John, do this or try this differently as you deploy these pilots, what else would I do? What are some other ideas that we should think about?
So, I think that's an interesting perspective. I think one you touched on was positive and negative. Are you right when you're leading, especially with AI, are you creating opportunities for innovation cycles? The
Hmm.
word agile and adaptability has just been all over the marketplace because all of the stuff that used to be kind of a tech mindset that people tried to process it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no, you need that mindset of I have to be able to learn and validate and learn, incorporate my learnings into something on a regular basis. And I think what we're seeing in the marketplace is that leaders who do that, who don't start with something huge, but instead are creating innovation with a purpose.
Hmm.
So going back to what we initially talked about, like you got to have a why. Are you doing this right? Like here's an area for you to explore, and that area should not be anything you have a known solution for. It should be right bigger than something than the company, right? Then something, a problem that the company has that it can't be solved by one person. So I think that that is something that's really key and critical is adaptability and resilience of like letting your teams go explore on smaller areas. And then what is amazing in the results is that um, a lot of those smaller innovations help with the mindset shift that's needed. And so all of a sudden, we're seeing organizations like we work with a healthcare company that we're seeing literally ER, doctors who are now all of a sudden, even though what we were working with them on was for more administrative tasks, we're seeing them be able to use technology to solve really big, key, and critical patient experience problems. Right. And so I think it is around innovation. So I just mentioned a couple of things that I think are really important for leaders. And just as we kind of wrap up here, I want to get your input on if you were to think about the, three human skills that leaders should be looking at and focusing on in the time of change to make sure that they stay relevant and, in this, so they stay relevant in this time of change. What would you recommend as the three human skills?
Yeah. So I think one is this ability to be measured. And we use this word a lot in our company. Measured means we don't lie about stuff. We just say, this is what it is. The data is the data. It's not a positive or negative. It is the answer. Right. So I think this ability to be measured and to say, hey, here's the problem I'm trying to solve. I'm stuck here. Or this sucks. We shouldn't do this. I'm raising my hand to say, guys, we got to kill this. Right. The ability for anybody to say that as a leader in the organization is really important. So I think for me, measured comes to mind. I
Like that.
I would definitely say in our space, I use this word persistence a lot. Like I should probably just like brand t-shirts with it because frankly, you know,
Tattoo or something.
yeah, but we do clinical trials. An average clinical trial runs for, 3 to 4 years, right? And once it gets started, it's started. It's off to the races. And so again, persistence is really important when you need to do things long term. And so again, if you're doing AI, you have this cool advantage where you can see results really quickly, but the implementation of that is extra long in our industry versus others. And so your ability to understand that and to not get sort of beat down by that and to really be motivated to move it faster and to think faster or think earlier is really important. And maybe the third one I would say, and you've mentioned the word, for me it's flexible, right? Like if you're a leader in this world, just like I am, I have to be flexible to realize like, man, I called that wrong. I need to change my mind and get moving. Right. And so, and with AI especially, I feel like every month I learn something by doing and I go, wow, I totally missed the plot. And on the inverse, as I learn this stuff, I go, man, these people are totally lying to us. And so this ability to be sort of to be flexible, to change your mind and not think you're changing your principle and your morals or
Yeah.
your being is not the case, right? It's changing my mind to go, yeah, I missed the plot on that. This is a really great tool and that's a really great solution. And I think for me, those have been maybe the three qualities important for me to see in my team, but also what I would want to see as a leader, especially in this day and age.
Well, awesome. Well, John, I am so excited that you joined us today. I think you have some really valuable insight. And I think that when you're just charismatic and you're doing some pretty cool things in the world. So I thank you for joining us today. Is there any way that if the audience wants to find you or connect with you, where should we send them?
Thanks, Lord. Thanks, Lord. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Love what you're doing and love your business and what you're trying to do. So thank you for having me. Two easy ways to get to me. One is you can go on LinkedIn and just type in John Reites and I'll show up. And I'm sorry, but I'll show up. And second is I actually also do a podcast focused on clinical research. So if you want to learn more about clinical research, how it works, hear some of the leaders talk about it. It's called Inclusion Criteria. And you type it in, it'll show up right in any podcast app you have. So thanks, Lori.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening and thanks for participating.